take off your hats. And I want this booklet on your desk, right here. And don't have this booklet. You can write the information I give you on the back of the cocaine one. And I'd also like you to have these two, cocaine and crack. If you don't have them, you can bring them with you tomorrow. But the information I give you, again, you can write it on the back of the sheet.
Okay, so first right off the bat that I'm noticing is the teacher is using her eye gaze and swoops over the entire class. It's important for a professor to do this so that she engages her students and pulls in their attention, especially when she's talking about an assignment or things they need. So that's something that will need to be incorporated in the interpretation.
Okay, before we get started, I want to go over to...
She uses okay to do the transition between, informing the class about this is what they need and this is what we're going to do before we get started.
Right, take that off. Let's talk about your projects. I have most of your projects over there, which I will get back to you at the end of the period, and I want to explain to you how I grade them. If you have a question about your grade, you want to negotiate, come back and we will. What you were supposed to do is take your name, write it down the side of the paper somehow, and then use each letter of your name to come up with a good, positive, descriptive word about yourself. Some of your posters, your projects were excellent. Some of the things I received were superb. Some of them were good, not quite superb, but good. Some of them were okay, and then there were none. Some. How did I grade them? 35 points was for your descriptive word. Now, I told you that's 35 points. Words should have been positive. So if you had all...
The speaker pauses for a good positive, and she pauses for a good 30 seconds. It's a noticeable difference because, she had a smooth pace that she was talking at, and then after positive, she pauses for a significant amount of time to emphasize that these words should have been positive, that you should have been using for your posters.
All your words and all of your words were positive. You got 35 points. Bingo. Some of you use negative words, and that cost you. Some of you go off to the
Her intonation went up when she said words. Like, what were you guys thinking? You should have been using positive words.
Then you got 35 points for creativity. Now, I told you to do something creative with it. I know some of you are not artistic people. Some of you can't draw. I can't draw. You know that. So you don't have to do beautiful artistic work. But you could have cut pictures out of magazines or newspapers, or you could have drawn miniature little flowers on there, as some people did. Whatever, to make it colorful. That got you 35 points. And all, I'd say probably out of 200 projects, maybe 6 or 8 of them were very artistic. Obviously, people were very talented. But the rest of them were not. It was just a matter of people taking some really nice pictures, cutting them out, putting them on TV, newspaper comments, etc. Almost organized here. That was 35.
Right there, she kind of had a bracket moment where she looked down and had, a side comment with her student asking him, "Are you ready yet?" And the student replied, and she said, "Okay," and then went back to her lecture. So that was kind of a bracket moment where she kind of trailed off and was having a one-on-one conversation with the student in front of her, and then went back to her lecture.
25 points with neatness. When you wrote your things, were they straight, were they orderly, or did you kind of write up and down all over the place? That was important. And the last 5 points of the other is you got 5 points if you did it. So if you did it, you automatically started off with those 5 points. And I will give them back to you at the end. For the test grade. Like I said, the majority of the ones that came through you were very, very nicely done, and I was very, very impressed with you. You were excellent. Second thing is the extra credit. Somebody, by the way, did an extra credit assignment, put it on a white sheet of paper. Oh, yeah, I didn't put a name on it, so I have no idea what paper it is. So if you did one of them, you might want to check it at the end. You had 2 extra credit assignments. The first extra credit assignment was cleaning out the medicine cabinet, and that was worth 2 points added on to your grade. The article was worth 3 points. So if you did, you may say, well, that's all, but here's what happens. If you did the 2 extra credit assignments and they were done fairly well, and most anyone who did got the credit. That is 5 points I will add on to your term grade. So if your average at the end of the term is 75, the same you know, you just got yourself a B. And that's almost like giving you a grade. So a lot of you did the extra credit assignments.
She pauses again a little bit more during this part than what she has in her lecture when she's talking about that's a 75. It's kind of like giving you a grade. Now you end up with a B if you did these extra credit points. She pauses in between each of those utterances to emphasize this is a really important thing. You know, doing these extra credit assignments can really help boost your grade. Doing that extra work can really pay off in the long run. So she was kind of using pausing in between those utterances to emphasize that point.
Okay? Any questions on that?
Again, she says, okay, kind of a rhetorical question, also to fit in what she was previously talking about and getting ready to transition into another topic. Again, she asks, does anybody have any questions on that? Again, it's a closing mechanism that teachers use to, say, last minute questions, last minute comments about this topic because we're going to be moving on to something else.
Now, project that's due tomorrow, but I will give you an extension to be handed in on Monday. If you've done it, if you want to hand it in now, fine. I'm going to hand it in Monday. Remember, I had given you the sheet that looks like this with all the assignments in it. You have this sheet right here. Everybody look familiar? Vaguely? Good. Okay. You have 6
Here the teacher asks a rhetorical question, and then her students must have given her back channeling and nod their head because she said, okay, good. As in, she asked the question, the students respond, and then she responds as well. So that's back channeling and back channeling. I don't remember what the term is for that, but after she asked the question, like I said, the students must have given her a response in order for her to say, okay, good. That kind of interaction with the students.
Bandwagon, where they say everybody is doing it, or a testimonial when they say Joe Montana says use this, where they take an important person. Joe Montana,
right there, she.
Still in the picture. Jim Kelly says use this. All right, that's a testimonial where they take an important person and that person says use these products. Or if they say that they use a product like Pepsi and they show a group of people having fun, that's one of the techniques. So you find 3 advertisements on anything in a newspaper, in a magazine, cut them out neatly, put them on a piece of paper. You can use white line paper on the front, and then on the back, just write which technique you think is being used. Or if it's a small advertisement, put it up on top and then on the bottom. You don't have to write me a 5-page paper. I don't want a 5-page paper. Just cut out the advertisement in 2 or 3 lines, write which techniques you think you're trying to use. That explains it. Any questions? Any questions? Anyone else? Now this is due tomorrow. I will give it till Monday. If you have it done tomorrow, hand it in. Otherwise, okay. Okay? All right. Now, go over your book to page 21.
Again, she uses, does anybody have any questions to kind of close her information about the the project that's due on Monday now, but she closes it with, does anybody have any questions?
Any 3. So if you've got one advertisement to help which technique that they're on. On page 21, what I'd like us to do today is finish up with the Hate Fool booklet, finish up talking about why people do drugs, and use this to refer back to the videotape we saw last week. Or the videotape I saw, I'm not sure what some of you were watching, because some of your answers I don't think you saw the same tape, but that's okay. We'll talk
Again, she uses all right, kind of as a rhetorical question, like everybody got it? Okay, so now on page 1. So the presenter or the teacher is using a lot of rhetorical questions to ask the students questions, to have them give back channeling, to know that everybody's understanding and comprehending what she's saying.
We had talked about through each section, look over your booklets, we talked about the different reasons why people use drugs. Notice we have them categorized as emotional reasons, physical reasons, social reasons, and the intellectual reasons. And we had picked out in each category what we thought were key reasons why people use drugs. We did that the last time. Now I'd like to talk about the videotape.
She transitioning by using now, going from what they previously were learning and talking about to what they're going to be doing now.
Using the cocaine at the party, and the little kid, A, using what? Crack. If you can think back, what were the reasons that those people did the drugs? Think back to, and I know this was last class, it was last week, but think back to Felipe. Remember he was out in his yard shooting the basketballs with his friends, and they got in the car and they drove off, and we know they died in a driving accident. Can you remember what he gave? What were some of the reasons he was using the alcohol? And they were also using pot. Think back to what they said. They said some real clear things. Good, right?
He said that because they're going to college and everyone's
excellent. Excellent. Exact words. Well, going to college and all the boys and girls in college do it. That was one of his reasons. He was saying.
One of the techniques that the teacher uses is repeating the question. So after the student states what his answer is, the teacher states it back to the student so that the rest of the class can hear. That repetition or repeating the verbatim is a technique that professors use to kind of reiterate what the student said and for all the students to hear and to kind of emphasize and just make sure that everybody understands. So that repetition, she's not just saying right, good, and then moves on. She says right, excellent, blah, 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 which restates what the student was saying. It's an implied, or not implied, but it's a purposeful repetition.
It's okay for me to do because everybody else is doing it. It's terrific. Right. You remember exactly how he said that? He didn't say my father. Yeah, if my old man can do it, I can do it. Exactly. So we use that as fun. Why was he drinking in the first place? Because he made the winning shot in the game. He was celebrating the fact that he had just won the ball game for his team. Celebration. His father was a drinker. All the kids in college. What were some of the other reasons you think he continued to drink? To show off for whom? Right, his friend, the other kid, I don't know if the other kid was his brother or the other kid's brother or whatever, the other two. But why else do you think he continued to use it? And they drank and they went on. Remember they got in the car and they were in the yard. How were they acting? Right, and? Okay, real happy, silly, getting stupid, etc. You think he liked the feeling? Yeah, right.
So, the teacher's asking a lot of questions to kind of get the audience to engage, or her students to engage in the discussion. When she is answering the question, or after she answers the question and the students respond, she nods her head in showing that she understands or comprehends what is being said. And then she goes on to whatever she wants to say. But that's a pattern that I've noticed, that she asks the question, students respond, and she nods her head or does some type of eye gaze, eye movement, body movement to show that she's understanding what the students are saying. So she's back channeling to what the students are saying.
People drink. And I know you don't. But when you're at parties and you're watching all these other kids drink and they're all acting silly and stupid, I know you all stand back and go, look how stupid he is, right? How many of you know people who drink more because they are acting silly and stupid? How many of you have been to these parties where you've seen people act like that? And the more I drink and the sillier I get, the excuse to keep drinking? Because if you're all acting silly and stupid, I can act silly and stupid, right? You've been there. You know what's going out there. So you can pick up those things. What about Jill? To impress me.
She uses rhetorical questions or questions to kind of go into transition. So here she was talking about, people going to parties, acting drunk, acting silly and stupid, and she also ties in. She tells the students, think back to when you're at parties and when you're there and you're seeing all these drunk people be stupid. How does, you probably think, wow, these people are acting really stupid. So she is using the students' personal experience to kind of tie into what they watched in real life. And that's a really good technique to kind of connect with the audience and have the audience or students connect to the material that they're learning. And again, she also asks another question to transition the topic, what about Jill? So the way she structures her lecture is asking questions, students respond, having a discussion, trying to make that personal connection with the information that they're learning in class, and then at each time it's the same thing over and over again. So each time she transitions from question to question or topic to topic, it's very similar how she's doing this.
The guy, number one, definitely to impress the guy. So that he would know that you'd be willing to do anything, okay, again, to kind of impress him, to relax. Remember, what did she say about herself? Remember how she described herself? Remember? Okay, she said very nervous, right? Okay, right, again, that kind of goes right along with what he said, what Donnie did, what Ramon said, to impress him, to get him to like her, etc. Remember, right in there, she said somehow she always felt very shy and insecure. Why else? Curious, yep, definitely, a little bit. Because remember, when you first pulled it out, what did she say? What's that? And she kind of kept babbling on. And then she kind of kept looking at him to see, what he was doing. And of course, she was willing to try it eventually. Right, to be more sociable, exactly, to relax. As time progressed, why did she use it? What are the two reasons she continued using it, Rachel? What do you think about that? To go again. I don't know if I'd use the words to go against, but can you think of a better way to say it? Because there's that one scene, they show her having an argument with her mother. Yeah, to maybe cope with it or to deal with. But maybe not necessarily.
You can see her head movement. Yeah, again, she's nodding her head in understanding or, showing that she's getting the information that she's getting from the students.
Well, perhaps. What else? Fruit. She's hooked. Right. She was addicted. And that was definitely a reason for using it. And why else? Before she got to that point, between the time she tried it and the time she got addicted, why else did she keep using it? When they were dancing, what did she say? Why did she want more? The feeling. She said, I like the way it makes me feel. So that was another reason for her to keep using the drug. Good. And Eddie, the little guy. Okay, what kind of pressure was he under? What kind of peer pressure? Definitely direct. What did they say that showed you that he was under direct, heavy peer pressure to use that drug? Patricia? Chicken. Okay, they were calling you chicken, etc. What was the cute little statement I thought was kind of interesting they made? Okay, good scientist. Use it for science. If you want to be a scientist, you have to experiment. Exactly. That's heavy peer pressure right there. What other statements did they make besides that, right?
Your mom won't find out?
Yeah, he was going to say, I didn't want to do it because my mom's going to find out. What did they say? What do you think? Your mom's going to come here looking for you? So again, more pressure. What did this other boy, I don't remember his name, I don't think I've ever said it. What did he say about his brother? That kind of reinforced the idea that it's okay to use this drug. You remember, Megan? Yeah, my brother does it all the time. He's not addicted. So you had a lot of examples there of the peer pressure. So that was certainly the start. Why else do you think he might have done the drug?
she, again, right there, she uses a rhetorical question to kind of tie in, what Donnie said, and trying to get the kids to think of what was the difference between Eddie and maybe the other kids. So using questions, using points from the first statement to the second statement to kind of transition. And also she uses but. But's another transition, but blah, 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 blah. So using rhetorical questions and conjunctive devices or transition words to kind of tie two things together. And this is something that I studied for one of my topics. The use of but or but can be different in ASL than it is in English. And how we utilize but can be to tie into utterances together, but in ASL it's usually to tie into like full concepts. It's not within one concept there's a but, it's usually two full ones. So this teacher uses a lot of but. So making sure that using the proper conjunctive devices, or being able to, if she's making a comparison, maybe use shoulder shifting in order to show that, or being able to portray that in some shape or form without using but, or, making sure I use the correct conjunctive device.
This kid says the other kids might be a little more free going, doing crazier things. Would you agree with that? How would you describe it? Okay, hesitant, good. The ideal student. Would a teacher like the class to go in? Oh, you better believe it. Definitely. I mean, yes, it would be. I mean, no comparison to this group, of course, right? But a classroom of Eddie, you wouldn't even have to pay me, right? Because if I could give Eddie 10 homework assignments to do tonight, what's Eddie going to do? Probably 11. Could you see Eddie doing that? Eddie's the kind of type.
So overall, with this video, I need to be aware of, when the teacher is using all these rhetorical questions and asking the students for feedback, and how she uses questions, and how she, at the end of each topic, closing of the topic, she asks, is everybody okay? Everybody understand? Any questions? So she's using these rhetorical questions to kind of close the topic, and that she's getting ready to open up a new one. So as the interpreter, I need to be able to identify those things and be able to convey that as well. So the student, the deaf student, knows, okay, she's asking the closing question, she's getting ready to switch topics now, so that they know that, to show like the easier, smoother transition. Also, she restates the question, so as the interpreter, it'd be really easy to just sit back and, answer, say what the student said, and then just, if the student got what the student said, if the deaf student understood what the hearing student was saying, I don't need to repeat what the teacher was saying, even though it was the same answer. But the teacher is using the repetition or repeating the question as an emphasis, so all the students can hear the information again, really just, everybody understanding what's going on. And so making sure that that combination is also being made for the deaf student is important. Also, when the teacher pauses, when she's making emphasis, or when she makes her little bracket or side comments, or when she relates the information back to the students' lives, like I didn't mention it during, but when she was like, wouldn't it be a teacher's dream to have a class full of Eddies? I mean, if I gave 10 homework assignments to Eddie, he would do 11. Is that right? So relating it back to the students' personal lives, because she assigns their homework and they do their homework. So like putting Eddie, the one of the characters in the movie, into their classroom and relating it to their environment that they're currently in is another technique. So making sure that since she is referring to a video that they've seen previously, If when they were talking about the video before, maybe if the characters were set up in a certain way in space, that the interpreter sets up those characters in the same place would be important. Like if the one group of friends was over here and the other group of friends was over here and Eddie was in the middle, making sure this time it's still the same space so that it's familiar to the student and that there's no confusion.